Bitcoin rallied from $80K up to $89,000, 10% from the lows. We have some massive whales that continue to build out their long positions. Now, the question is, should you be longing Bitcoin? In today's video, we'll be discussing exactly this, going over the most recent Bitcoin price action, and discussing what is currently happening in this extremely volatile market. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. First and foremost, an update on my big Bitcoin long trade. When we crossed $88,000, I went ahead and secured a lot more profits. And you can see here that we realized just over 100K in profit, currently sitting 140K in unrealized profit. Now I'm willing to let the rest of this trade ride out as Bitcoin goes ahead and targets the yearly open. That yearly open, I'll remind you, is sitting right around $93,500. Yesterday we talked about what was seemingly positive in this market, and that is not just the bounce from 80K, but that people were continuing to pile into shorts as Bitcoin continued to crawl up. To me, that is positive because it just adds fuel to the fire and we can go ahead and grab that short liquidity. Now, we did talk about exercising a little bit of caution because where the price is currently at is not where you want to go aggressively long. I discussed how I went long at much lower levels when we had this big capitulation event last Friday. It was an excellent opportunity. Now, if you want to know exactly how I am personally trading this market, you have the first link in my description down below. You DM me the word premium on Telegram and I'd be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. This group is essentially just all of my own personal insights in this market, how I am operating from a spot perspective, and how I am currently trading this market. This exact trade that you're seeing on the screen here was shared in my group. I will be honest though, I did try to knife catch a couple times. I came out on the channel and told you that I even lost $25,000 trying to knife catch, but you can see that the wins greatly exceed the losses. That's how you should be trading this market. What am I doing with this capital? Well, I'm stacking capital because ultimately in the bear market, I do firmly believe that Bitcoin will be going below $70,000. And what does this mean? A perfect accumulation opportunity riding into the next bull market. That's how you should be playing this market. Any profits from those trades, you go ahead and stack Bitcoin at the bear market bottoms. Before we continue, please remember that I am not a financial advisor. Nothing that I discuss on this channel should be construed as financial advice. I am essentially just a guy on the internet sharing his own market insights and his trades. Now, where do I think this can go? Honestly, I would be looking for my next TP to target the yearly open. If Bitcoin can confirm all the way up above $93,500, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And I do think that the move to 98K and then back to a six-figure Bitcoin above $100,000 would be sooner than most people are willing to admit. There are some positive signs, I cannot lie. However, it is extremely risky to go long at this point in time. The reason I say this is because we do have some longs starting to pile into the market, which we'll cover in today's video as well. You can see that all the way down to $83,000, there's around $100 million worth of liquidation leverage. Now, we're seeing the same pattern play out, and it's a scary pattern. That is, the elevators up, potentially stairs down. If we take a look at the Bitcoin chart here, you can see that on the shorter time frames, Bitcoin essentially went ahead and filled that CME gap, which is something we were looking for and we discussed in yesterday's video. We came back down to that 85.2K region, filled the gap, and then exploded higher all the way up to $89,000. However, taking a look at Bitcoin on the 4-hour chart, for example, you can see that we just continue to grind up and it's not really that much of an explosive move. That being said, the other side of the equation is as I continue to see more shorts piling into the market and the funding rate remains negative, this does signal to me that we can see some more upside before potentially retracing. I need to give you the bigger picture. We are still very much in a downtrend, and although I've been calling for a relief rally, although I've been showing you my trades, I still firmly believe that at some point in time here, we will likely go ahead and roll over. As soon as everyone that's currently shorting goes max long, we will likely go ahead and roll over. Now, you might think it's not funny, but my stop is at break even on this trade. I'm perfectly content with just letting it sit at this point in time. A reminder, it was shared in my premium group. We also have this map, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of people are piling into shorts. This is why I still think that there's a little bit more fuel for us to potentially go higher above $90,000. Ideally, we can go ahead and target that yearly open found at 93.5K. Break above the yearly open and hold it as support. We are indeed moving higher in my opinion. However, until proven otherwise, there is always a high likelihood that we can go ahead and roll over from that region. Let's see what the price action gives us. We can only trade the market that's right in front of us. Now, taking a look at Ethereum, because I've been getting quite a lot of questions about ETH. Why am I not trading ETH? Honestly, I don't think that this is the best setup at this point in time. You want to see us reclaim $3,000, and Bitcoin determines the rest of the market. I hate to repeat myself on this topic, but guys, if Bitcoin just continues to rip here and we break above the yearly open, hold it as support, and then we go ahead and target 100K, I do think that ETH can be moving much, much faster. However, if Bitcoin rolls over, we know what happens to Ethereum and the rest of the crypto market. That's why I've kind of just been trading Bitcoin at this point in time. It's easier because you get a better gauge of the market, and it ultimately determines how the rest of the market will be performing. Now, I also wanted to talk about USDT dominance, because every single time this cycle that we tapped into this pivotal level on the USDT dominance chart, we ended up reversing. Now, reversing for USDT dominance is exactly what we want if we're going to get more upside for Bitcoin here, bouncing from those 80K lows. You can see that that 49K bottom ended up coinciding with USDT dominance hitting all the way above 6.75%. Now, the 74K bottom, we didn't quite make it up there. This was the tariff capitulation event. Then we came right back down. This is ultimately positive for the crypto market. Then we held on to the 4% level as discussed on the channel. You can go back, there's some timestamps. And since then, we went all the way up here back to that 6.75% level. We simply do not want to break above here. Otherwise, if USDT dominance goes parabolic, Bitcoin will likely drop much, much further. Now, my deep buying zones from a spot positioning as I'm preparing for a highly anticipated bear market would be sub $70,000. The lower Bitcoin goes, the more I will be buying with my excess capital. That's how you should be playing this market. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. I can't tell you what to do. I'm just sharing with you how I am personally trading this market. And something that set me up for such success in this current crypto market cycle is accumulating Bitcoin at much lower valuations in the bear market when everyone was freaking out about FTX, etc. We had so much time to buy the bear market bottoms. This time around, I think it might be a little bit trickier. All of the traditional indicators that most people look at did not flash. And so because we didn't have that massive euphoria, there is a chance that the bear market bottoms are higher than most people are willing to admit. Now, usually we drop around 80% for Bitcoin. Maybe this time around it'll only be between 60 and 70%. Now, where would that put us? From the highs here, right around $126,000, if Bitcoin were to drop between 60 and 70% total in the bear market, that would bring us all the way down to below $50,000. Guys, that is deep value for Bitcoin if that's the case. I will not be stressing about buying Bitcoin, but as I just shared with you, as soon as we start heading below 70K, I will start dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin from a spot positioning in preparation for the next cycle. The deeper we go, the more I will be buying. That's how you should be planning your allocation, in my opinion, of course. Now, let's take a look at the ETFs, because yesterday we did get some more outflows, namely BlackRock contributing to 150 million worth of outflows for the Bitcoin spot ETFs. Now, there is an interesting metric that we've been discussing as well called the Coinbase Premium. It continues to start to turn around. This is massive, and we want to see this start going in positive if we're going to get more continuation for Bitcoin bouncing from those 80K lows. The Coinbase Premium, which was sitting at a big discount for several weeks, has almost moved back to neutral over the weekend. The biggest discount, of course, was last Friday during the local bottom. This is when we saw that massive volume spike and lots of selling overall. And this is what I was discussing in my previous videos. When you see that massive volume down, that big capitulation wick, and you still firmly believe we are to get a bounce, because that was my base case, that's when you can go ahead and enter these kinds of positions. everyone was absolutely freaking out. And as a matter of fact, when I saw that the volume was going up, I didn't even get that great of an entry in hindsight. You can see here that I entered right around $82,700. When we had the wick, we bounced up. I wasn't on my computer, but I re-entered because of that capitulation, confident that we would be getting a bounce. Now, of course, you can call this knife catching. Sometimes I like to do that, but ultimately the results speak for themselves. Then Bitcoin went ahead and moved all the way up to around $85,000 from my entry and dropped even further to the 80K level. I stayed level-headed, remained in my trade, and now you can see how it's playing out. So, what I want to get at here is when you get those massive capitulation events, they should be seen as opportunities, not just from a spot perspective, if that's how you want to play it, but also from a trading perspective. Now, for me personally, when we dropped here, I didn't buy any more spot Bitcoin simply because I've accumulated from much lower levels. But as we start to go ahead and head into that bear market, relief rally or not, I will be accumulating a shit ton of Bitcoin. That's how you want to play it. Now back to that Coinbase premium discussion. As you can see here, we are slowly grinding up. You want to see this start to turn positive to fuel some more momentum. This is one of the most important indicators, and it's been historically correct over the course of this cycle. Now, I also want to talk about the fact that we have these massive Bitfinex longs that continue to pile up. These guys are OGs in the space, and let me add a little bit more context. So the whales have built up massive longs, which we covered. These guys have been historically accurate in piling into longs. Obviously, none of us have unlimited capital to pile into these longs, but this does suggest that they are seeing some more upside for Bitcoin. A very, very interesting way to look at it. So, pretty significant update on the Bitfinex OG whales. These chads have now built the most amount of longs throughout the entire period of this cycle. So much so, the RSI has actually entered overbought levels. So far this cycle, these whales have called the market perfectly, scaling into huge longs on the way down and gradually exiting into new highs. The Bitfinex whales are some of the earliest adopters of Bitcoin and long trading, with Bitfinex of course being a true OG exchange. It's important to note that over many cycles they have not made every move totally on point. This I would agree with, but so far this cycle they have absolutely nailed it. These guys are betting on a much bigger move to the upside. Obviously, you need to be cautious with your entries because right now there is a risk of having that stairs up, elevator down kind of situation, which we've seen time and time again. However, it would not surprise me that if Bitcoin goes ahead and rolls down from here, they would likely continue to build out their long positions in anticipation of a relief rally at the very least. Speaking of which, every bear market we've gone a right shoulder to the 200-day moving average. Currently, that sits at around $110,000. Even if it's over, there's a high likelihood of getting steamrolled trying to short. That's a 20K move back to the 200-day moving average, and many alts could 2, 3, 4x in that window. Now, currently I have my Bitcoin position, but I am actively starting to look at some altcoins. And so if you want to trade those altcoins with me, get in a trade, get out of a trade, you do have that first link in my description down below. These are my own personal trade setups. Now, speaking of my group, I am getting some questions about why I'm not posting a gazillion trade setups a day. You've heard it before. You probably entered a ton of signal groups and there's like 5 to 20 different trades every single day. How on earth are you meant to be profitable if that's how you're trading this market? I just post my own personal trades, which are only taken if I see the opportunity to do so in the market. I don't rush into trades. Sometimes there's a few days where I don't even post any trade setups, but that's how you should be trading this market. Most people make a ton of money and then they go ahead and lose it all on the next trade. I also talk about risk management in this group if that interests you, of course. I know it's boring, but that's how I'm able to take some losses and still secure some much bigger wins over time. Now, I also wanted to touch on the fact that buyers are continuing to dominate. Spot CBD is going up rapidly while perp CBD is muted. Plus, we have the negative funding, which we discussed, and almost flat Coinbase premium. Let's see if this can continue. These are early positive signs in my opinion. Now, there will likely be some lower time frame shakeouts, and as per my video yesterday, even if Bitcoin were to come back down, say to $80,000, I firmly believe that we're trying to form a local bottom from around these regions. But you need to be careful in trading this if you're not already positioned. And that sums up today's quick video. What we're seeing here is we're getting some massive whales that are continuing to long this kind of price action. Now, these guys seem to have unlimited capital, so you need to be careful with your entry. We got a very nice entry from much lower, and I just want to see how it plays out. At this point in time, I firmly believe that Bitcoin is trying to form a local bottom, whether we roll over from here or whether we can go ahead and reclaim that yearly open. Please remember that no one is a fortune teller. All I can do is come here every single day, take a look at the charts, and tell you what I think could be happening next as I continue to trade this market. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I have my bluff and leverage trading tutorial right here, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.